Okay, guys, so like I said in the last video, the other part that we're going to focus on in this chapter is actually the basics of trig because they start in geometry. Today is going to be all about teaching you how to use a calculator, and then next week we'll focus on how do we use this with actual pictures and triangles and solving for things that we need. So you'll see this note on my screen. You need a calculator that has buttons that read sin, cos, and tan. That's actually standing for sine, cosine, and tangent, and we'll get into more of that next week. But you need a calculator. So if that means you need to hit pause and go find your calculator, then do that. If you don't have a regular calculator, you have some options. If you have a calculator on your smartphone, pull out your calculator on your smartphone. I know if you have an iPhone, you have to tip your phone sideways to get that extended calculator, but it's there. Okay. You also need to, if that doesn't work, the other option is you can go to our Canvas homepage, scroll the whole way down to the bottom. You'll have a link that says resources, and it will open up a calculator that looks like this on your screen. And so you should see over here on the left, here are my sine, cosine, and tangent buttons, okay? So once you have a calculator that has those buttons, we have to make sure that it's in the right mode. So if you're using the one that's on my screen that you can pull up on your computer, you want to make sure DEG for degrees is visible, okay? If you are using an iPhone, okay, and you have your calculator tipped sideways, the very bottom left button should say RAD, R-A-D. If it says DEG, you want to tap it so that it does say RAD, okay? If you're using a regular calculator, we're just going to do a quick test to see what it's in, and then you'll know if we need to change it, and I can give you some hints on how to do that. The other thing we need to check to see is what order do you need to hit the buttons in on your calculator, okay? So first thing we're going to do is try putting a couple things into the calculator and start learning the order of the buttons and making sure our calculator is set up properly. So for example, if you have a calculator or if you're using this online one, and my first question here says sine 52. If I hit on this calculator, sine, I put in 52, my answer is already appearing here on the right, or I can just hit my enter button and it sort of bumps it up a line and lets me start typing. If you hit sine 52 on your calculator, this is the decimal you should be seeing, 0.7880107, blah, 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 okay? Now, if on your calculator, when you hit the sign button, the word appears on your screen, put in the 52, hit equals. If on your calculator, when you hit the sign button, nothing happens on your screen, you need to enter things sort of in reverse. Put the 52 in first, then hit the sign button, and you should have the same decimal appearing on your screen. Now, if you have hit the sign of 52 in whichever order your calculator goes, and instead you have a decimal of 0.9866, etc., that means your calculator is in the wrong mode. So if you have a regular calculator, what you want to look for is somewhere on your calculator a button that talks about a mode. Sometimes it's going to be under math, okay? But somewhere you should find in your calculator a way to change between radians and degrees, or RAD and DEG, okay? This is something I can certainly help you with in office hours if you're not able to find it on your calculator. And if you're not able to find it on your calculator right now, I would recommend trying to open up the online calculator, okay? So hopefully you have found whether you need to put the word in first or the number in first. And hopefully if you take the sine of 52, we're all getting this 0.7880107, etc. Okay? So the instructions that are on my screen, sort of behind my calculator, say to use the calculator to find the following to 4 decimal places. And so I'm going to need this 0.7880. The 1 is not going to make me round, so that's what I'm going to need. And so if I click back onto my screen here, I'm just going to put that decimal in, okay? You're going to do the same thing for the other 4 questions on the screen. Just make sure you hit the button that matches the word that you're seeing. So depending on your calculator, you hit the word first, then put in the number, hit equals, or some of you are going to do the number first and then the word. Do whatever your calculator needs, okay? My suggestion might be hit pause here and run the 3 questions on your screen. If you put each of these in, the tangent of 84 is going to be a 9.5144. The cosine of 12 is going to be 0.9781. And then the sine of 33 is going to be 0.5446. So again, they wanted 4 decimal places, round that 4th decimal place appropriately. What you should notice is that all 4 of these, it was the word with a degree, meaning this is an angle measure. And so when I'm taking this with the angle measure, I'm getting these decimal values, okay? Sometimes they want you to work in reverse. This says to use a calculator to find the following to the nearest whole degree. Notice now this says cosine of x equals some 4-digit decimal. They want us to sort of work backwards and find out what was the angle that produced that 4-digit decimal that you were just getting on the previous 4 questions. This is going to require us to use what's known as an inverse, okay? So I'm going to take, sorry, let me make this so you can see as I type. The inverse, meaning it's going to have this little -1. I'm going to enter that 4-digit decimal, and it's going to equal that x value that they're looking for, okay? But the key here is I need to use the cosine, in this case, with the -1. If you're using a regular calculator, if you look at your calculator, it is probably above it, above the regular buttons in that other color where you're going to have to hit your 2nd or your shift key. If you're using your cell phone, your iPhone, you're going to have to hit that 2nd button that you see sort of in the top left. That's going to put the sine, cosine, and tangent with the -1 on your screen in the same place the originals were. And if you're using the calculator that you can get from our Canvas homepage, you're going to have to hit this function. And notice now I have sine, cosine, and tangent with a -1. And then in order to get the numbers back, you're going to have to click back to the main. Okay, so I know that's a lot. What you want to try and do is put what you can see here to the left into your calculator. So if you were able to put the words in first, you can still put the words in. Just make sure that your calculator now shows it with a -1. Put in the decimal and hit equals. Okay. If you had to put your numbers in first, do that. Put your number in first, 0.4226. Hit that 2nd or shift, hit your cosine to the -1, and you should get the same decimal that I'm getting, 65.0011, etc. Okay. This says to round to the nearest whole degree, meaning whole number. 0 will not make me round up, so this has an answer of 65 degrees. Okay. Once again, I would suggest perhaps hitting pause on this video and trying to enter the other 3 problems into your calculator. Again, all of them are going to do this with a -1. Okay. Hopefully you've given them a shot. If you put these through your calculator, tangent of x equal to 0.1944 gave me an 11-degree angle. Number 7 would give me a 70-degree angle. And lastly, I would get a 58-degree angle. So far what I have showed you, if I click back, is if I take the value of an angle, I'm producing a decimal. And if they give me the decimal, I can use the inverse to go back and find that whole angle measure.